Hi, and welcome to Noise Violation Podcast. Today, our guest is a dream consultant, dream analyst, podcast host, and all around just entrepreneur online, ahead of the curve with her business and presence. And so thank you and welcome Jane Teresa Anderson to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so I can tell you got an accent. So what, are you from Australia? Is that your native?
No, I have lived in Australia for, I stopped counting, probably about 38 years. I came here for 3 years and stayed. So I'm British originally, from the south coast of England. So if I go to England, people think I'm Australian. And but now in Australia, people know I'm English because my accent kind of in between somewhere, kind of totally confused.
Yeah. So how did you get involved in Dream Analyst and consulting? Is that a college degree? Did you go to school for that? Did you have some mentors and pick it up along the way? Tell us about your journey and how you got involved.
Very interesting question, because I kind of started life as a scientist. You know, I was told at school that I was good at science, so I believed them and thought, oh, well, obviously I've got to study science. And I went to university in Scotland to study biochemistry. And through school, because I was studying science and I was a good scientist, I had studied physics and chemistry, which is what you were supposed to do. So it was only when I went to university and studied biochemistry that I realized there's this whole other science called biology, which is really quite interesting. So I kind of specialized in that. By the time I graduated with a degree in zoology, but specializing in neurodevelopmental physiology, which is basically how the nerves connect with the brain and how the brain interprets what we see around us. So on another tack, as a child, I had, as many of us do, vivid, amazing dreams. But I was always really curious about, why am I having these dreams? What do they mean? Are they like past lives, or are they stories? Is it my vivid imagination, as my mother said? What is this? This curiosity was always with me. So many years after I graduated, it just got too much, and I thought, right, I'm going to really investigate this. So the scientist in me got together a group of several hundred people and did surveys with them, asked them questions, got them to do experiments in their dreams, all just self-funded, as in it didn't cost me anything, I just did it anyway, it cost me bits and pieces. And out of that got the contract for my first book from a publisher from HarperCollins in Australia, and that book was published in 1994. So I draw my methods from the research that I did then, and also from my ongoing work with clients in all these years. So it's kind of a mix of studied scientific approach and also an art. So it's very much developed by me. I've read around what other people do. I pick bits and pieces, but I use the methods that I have developed and what works for me, because there are very few courses where you can actually go and study to become a dream analyst or a dream therapist. And even if you do a psychology degree at college or at university, often dreams are an option. You know, you can study dreams, or you can study this as a 10-week option or whatever. There isn't really anywhere in the world any kind of real tertiary endorsed education for becoming a dream analyst. It's just something that you go out and do. And I've also created online courses to help other people do that. So that's been a little bit of my journey.
Yeah, so it sounds like you started in the physical and the biological, what's actually happening in the brain and the body for dreaming. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening as someone's dreaming?
Yeah, so it was that, you're right, it was that initially got me in, the idea of how is the brain interpreting the world around us physically, and then how is it interpreting our emotions and our experiences. So what I discovered basically through the early research in all these years is that when we're asleep, our dreaming brain or dreaming mind is processing the last 1 to 2 days of all our conscious and unconscious experiences. So it's trying to make sense of the world. It's a bit like a software update. So you're supposed to wake up in the morning with, okay, right, I've had these recent experiences. This is where I'm at now. This is what I believe about the world. These are my feelings. These are my memories. These are the ways I behave and respond in the world.
Yeah, I
And
kind of
doing
heard it's like it's all this information, and then when you're dreaming or sleeping, it's like a file cabinet where the brain tries to go and store information, find the right places.
yeah,
Is that right?
that's perfect analogy for it. Yes, and in finding those right places, it will often go, oh, had yesterday, that's very similar to when you were 8. So let's just go back through the files to when you were 8. So dreams will go back to compare similar kind of experiences from the past to update where you're at now. Except that, of course, our dreams don't look like they're doing that, do they? They look weird and bizarre. And that's because the part of your brain that is more logical or more editing is actually really pretty switched off, and it's left to the rest of your brain, which is more kind of touchy-feely. Let's paint a big picture of kind of the feeling of what went on yesterday that actually creates the dream. In short, you can look at a dream as an analogy of your life.
So I'm Erica, Blake's girlfriend, and I am this episode's co-host mainly because I'm a lot like you in your early days before you got into this, very interested in dreams. And I always remember my dreams, and I'm always like, Blake, I Googled this and it means this. And I read tarot cards, and there seems to be a lot of similarities, like fire, for instance. As a kid, and even to this day, I have a recurring dream where my house is burning down. So I always Google like a house, or I Google fire. And when I Google fire and the dream meaning, it's very similar to the fire card, to wands in the tarot deck. Do you know anything about that? Or is there like a spiritual connection, or just fire kind of just means like cleansing and transformation and destruction?
Yeah, I love what you say, and I really love what you say. So I don't take a dream dictionary approach, because if you take a dream dictionary and look up a thing like you have done with fire, it can mean different things to different people. Except some dream dictionaries give a range of things, and you pick on the one that suits you. So our dreams are personal, but what I love about what you just said there, Erica, is that you already study the tarot. You have your own inner connection with symbols. You know what fire means to you when you use it in the tarot. So fire, whenever it turns up in your dreams, represents exactly that. You don't need to Google. You already have an inner symbolism for fire. So for whatever fire represents for you, as you say, it could be cleansing, for example. In other people, it might be anger, like I'm really angry and I'm just going to explode into flames. For other people, it might be fashion. You know, I'm so on fire with this wonderful idea I've got. So it depends. Your unconscious mind picks the symbols, goes through, to Blake's idea, the filing cabinet of your ideas about what would symbolize this cleansing or whatever it is, and picks it up. So you actually already know the meaning of all the symbols in your dreams, but when you wake up in the morning, you often think you don't. So I often teach exercises that show people how to get back in contact with that knowledge. So with you, I'd be saying, you know, oh, well, you know, I don't know what questions I'd be asking, because I'd be looking at the dream, but we would discover along the way that you are an expert at the tarot, and we would uncover what fire means to you personally, and that would, yeah, that's done, that's that symbol ticked. Does that make sense?
That's very interesting. So it sounds like everybody kind of has their own interpretation, and maybe different dream analysts. Do you like interview the person so you kind of get to know like where they're at in their life to kind of dissect the meaning of their dreams? Or is it kind of like you ask them to interpret it?
No, I have two different approaches. One is that I really, in my heart's desire, would love everybody to be able to do this for themselves. So I've always encouraged, with a lot of free resources on my site and with my own podcast show, and those as free resources to help people to do this themselves. And I've also got the Dream Academy, which is an online learning program where people pay quite a small fee to go in and learn how to do this themselves. So that's like one aspect, is you can do this, you can learn this yourself. But for people that don't want to learn, they just want an answer, I have two services. One is I really sit down these days, in all my years of being online, means on the phone or on Zoom, Skype in the old days, worldwide. So I sit down for an hour with somebody for one dream, and yes, Erica, ask them questions, really go deep, really deep into what this dream means for them and find out their own questions. Now, something that's been really intriguing for me all along, and very challenging, is that over all the years, a lot of people say, well, I'm kind of shy to speak on the phone, or I want something, can we come down a bit? Can you just kind of give me a bit of an overview in email or in writing, or just record a little MP3 for me? And I keep coming back over the years to doing it, and they're the ones which people absolutely love. So the structure of that, I will ask in the input form for some extra information that gives me some clues as to where the person's coming from. You know, if there's people in the dream, I might ask them to describe them, things like that. But then what I do in looking at those dreams is partly I've just done this for so many decades that I can see the meaning of the dream. But partly the other aspect of dream analysis comes in, which is not so much looking at the individual symbols, the fire, the house, the this, the that. It's standing back and seeing the overall picture, the drama. Oh, this is a dream where something goes up in flames. Where in this person's life does it feel like something's just gone up in flames? That's a silly example, but it's moving away from the symbols and looking at the drama. And the responses that I get from that every day is, oh, that is so spot on. Oh, yeah, that is it. So I keep trying to work out what my method is there and keep refining how I'm teaching it so that other people can go down that angle as well.
And Erica's always been into it, and I've been more on the skeptic side, if you want to say that. Like, you know, dreams don't mean anything. You know, you can apply your own meaning, or you know, there can be multiple meanings. So how do you know if, like, you're getting a good interpretation from a dream analyst? It's like, how does one build credibility in your field to know that, you know, that there's providing value out of that dream?
Yeah, partly by just collecting responses from people, obviously, and people always say, yes, that's so spot on, I've learned something about myself. And from the recipient's point of view, from the person who's you know, consulted me, they usually describe things like, oh, that gave me goosebumps, oh, I can see that, or, you know, I can, that, yeah, that makes a difference for my life. And then reporting back a few weeks later and saying, well, this has happened and that's happened. Because I learned more about myself and my unconscious mind, I've been able to see life differently, shift my perspective, that's changed my experience. But to answer your question more precisely, yeah, you've picked up the scientist in me, not the skeptic, but the scientist. So I probably go overboard when I give a dream analysis of explaining to the person where I'm coming from. Can you see this and see that? Can you see how those two are connected? Because if you look over here in the dream, there's a similar, oh yeah. And if you look over here, you did it, oh yeah. And if you look over here, and they're all the same. Can you see that? There's a pattern there, and this pattern is happening in your life. So I do really try to, I guess, it's these two conflicting parts of myself. The part that just wants to say, yeah, this is what your dream means, and the greater part of me that really wants to teach other people how to take on this so they can do it themselves.
So with the patterns, is that kind of describe recurring dreams over the years?
Yes.
Like patterns in someone's life, like maybe it's like a habit or the way that you react to something, or a glimpse of your personality or something.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. We all have patterns all the time. So, you know, I tend to use the word mindset because, hey, it's just a word. But I say your dreams are updating your mindset all the time. And your mindset's composed of conscious and unconscious beliefs, feelings, memories, ways of responding. So often it's our unconscious mind that drives how we respond in a situation. We might be in a situation that I am definitely going to say this to that person, or this when I'm in this job. But somehow I got there and I said something completely different, or I did something. Where's that coming from? That's your unconscious programming. So it's your unconscious programming that is your patterns of behavior. So Erica, when you have a recurring dream, because a dream reflects generally the 1 to 2 days beforehand, it means that you have a recurring dream every time there's a recurring issue in your life. This issue comes up, there's the dream. This issue comes up, there's the dream. And it's because you've got a pattern, as you're basically saying, you've got a pattern of waking life that is got a bit of a block or a bit of a limit, and even your dreaming brain can't work out a solution, and dreams are supposed to be good at solving problems. And it's like, oh, I've got this, and I just can't, and then there's the dream, and I just can't, and there's the dream. So if you look at these kind of dreams, the pattern, to take a simple example, you might have a recurring dream that you keep going up a street that looks like it's leading somewhere, but it's always a dead end. And you wake up, you're so frustrated, because most recurring dreams end up unresolved or frustrated. So then you look at life, where in my life do I keep thinking, yeah, I'm going to do this thing, but I just keep ending up in a dead end? And that's your pattern. The pattern is either, all the details in the dream would highlight it, but the pattern is either I keep making choices that really are not right for me, or I make choices, but I have an unconscious belief that you work with the greater detail of the dream to identify for the person their pattern of behavior that is blocked, and you identify that, and then I give exercises which are called Dream Alchemy to help reprogram the mind or rewire the brain to change that pattern into one that works better for you. But yeah, we're creatures of habit, we're creatures of pattern.
How does like medication affect that? Like if someone takes NyQuil and they're like, I have the craziest dreams on NyQuil, or something like that. Like, does that affect the brain chemistry when you're dreaming?
Absolutely, yeah. Some of the most common ones I've seen are dreams of conflict and sort of fighting. And basically even if the medication is supposed to be doing something really good, and even if the medication is actually doing something really good, and your doctor recommends it, you've got to take it. As far as your dreaming mind is concerned, what is this invader in my bloodstream? What is this change? And it's like the dream will often be, fighting something or feeling that there's an intruder or something like that. And so, yeah, the dreams get super crazy because a lot of drugs are, of course, affecting our brain chemistry, either because that's what they're designed to do or because that's the side effect. So, which means changing your mindset. Unconscious mind is showing all its beliefs and frustrations about that. So yeah, you have to take all that into account when you're looking at such a dream.
And can everyone dream? And then are you constantly dreaming and then you just don't remember the dream? What's kind of the typical,
like, how come some people remember and some people don't, kind of thing?
Yeah, like I don't remember all my dreams, but am I dreaming and I just don't remember it, or what's happening?
You're definitely dreaming. Everyone dreams. If you do experiments with animals and you allow them to sleep but you stop them from dreaming, which there are ways to do, they actually die. If you do experiments with humans, you don't take it that far, but you allow them to sleep in the sleep lab and you wake them up every time they start dreaming, they're mentally very unhealthy after only a few days. So even if we don't remember our dreams, we know that they're important for our physiological and emotional well-being and our mental well-being. But we often don't remember them. There are lots of reasons why we don't remember them. Just talking about them in depth today, and maybe or maybe not persuading the skeptic in you, you may start remembering, but you probably don't remember because you don't think that they're worthwhile. You said you're a skeptic, so that's one of many reasons. Another reason why people don't remember their dreams is they've had a scary one in the past, and someone has said to them, like a parent, oh, don't worry, it's only a dream. So instantly, well, why would I remember something that's only? Yeah. And the other big one really is if you jump out of bed in the morning, or the moment your alarm goes off, you're on the phone scrolling, you jump straight into conscious mind, what am I going to be doing today? You've lost that window of opportunity for recall. And one other one I would like to mention, because it's quite interesting, is that a lot of us try to get by on less sleep than we need. And in an 8-hour sleep, up to 60 to 90% of our dreams, I'll say that again, 60 to 90% of our dreams happen in the last 2 hours. That's from 6 to 8 hours of sleep. So if you're trying to get by on 6 hours sleep, you're actually missing a lot of your dreams. And that's why you're sometimes not really feeling too good either.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I've also heard people who keep a dream journal. And so if they dream, then they'll write it down. And then that also keeps them more in tune with their dreaming and will actually help with like lucid dreaming. Is that can you talk about lucid dreaming? And
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a perfect way to do it. Just getting into the habit of writing down starts to program you to remember more and more dreams. And if you don't have time to do the long writing, just recording it audio or drawing a few stick figures can help to bring it back. Lucid dreaming. Wow. Do either of you lucid dream before I go into that?
I guess, what is it like when you clearly remember your dreams, or is it like you just know all the details? For people,
no, it's quite an amazing thing. It's funny, a lot of people think they're lucid dreaming. They hear the definition, which I'm about to give you, and they think, yeah, I do that. And then one day you have a lucid dream, you go, oh no, now I know what lucid dreaming is. So, when you're having a normal dream, say you're running from a tiger and you're really running because you totally believe there's a tiger running after you, and you wake up in the morning and go, oh, it was a dream. Yeah. In a lucid dream, you're running from a tiger and you suddenly go, oh, this is a dream. But you don't wake up. So you're in the dream and you're also simultaneously, and this is the magic, simultaneously aware that you are in your bed or awake. And you've got these two realities that you balance. And the amazing thing is that because the dream is so vivid, it feels more vivid than your waking life. It actually makes you question reality, which is really interesting. And then within the lucid dream, there are various things you can do. The safest thing, and I'll tell you why it's safest later, but the safest thing is actually to maybe do something like fly, because you can fly. Oh, I'm in a dream, I think I'll do something different, I think I'll fly. And you have the most amazing sensation because it feels totally real and you are flying and you're in control and it's great. But then to stop and actually let the rest of the dream go and just watch it. And I'll tell you why that's safe later. The other way, which is what most people do, is right, I'm dreaming, I'm not only going to fly, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to rearrange the characters, I'm going to bring on this, and have these amazing, super sensual experiences. And that's fantastic, it's absolutely brilliant. But if you get in the habit of doing that too many times a week, you're actually blocking your brain and your mind from doing its normal, necessary physiological, mental, and emotional housekeeping.
Interesting.
You're not very well at the end of a lot of it.
So cool. I have so many questions, so I'm just going to get started with them if you don't mind. So nightmares, I bet, that's probably a big one that you deal with. How sometimes you have a nightmare and then you wake up like, oh my gosh, and then you try to go back to sleep and your eyes are closed and all you can picture is that nightmare continuing on. But it's like you're not sleeping, and then no matter what you do to try to forget it, it's just like in your brain.
Yes, it's really hard, and it just becomes a vicious cycle, doesn't it? Not only that night, but the next night you're scared to go to bed in case that happens again. So I'll tell you what's happening, and then I'll give you the solution, because it's an easy solution, and people think, oh no, if I do that it won't work, but it works every time, or nearly every time. So first of all, a nightmare is a dream. It's different. People will say, I had a bad dream. Other people will say, I had a nightmare. It's still the same process. But what most of us call a nightmare is where you feel such intense fear or anxiety or stress, but usually fear in the dream. And you'll say that's a nightmare and it wakes you up. And the reason it wakes you up is that when you feel fear in a dream, your body does actually release the fear hormone. Or if you feel stress hormone. So you actually are physiologically in a state of fear, heart pumped, fight or flight, the whole deal. And that jolt to your body will often wake you up out of the nightmare. So it compounds then, because your body is telling you that something terrible has just happened. So you believe that it wasn't only a dream, but like something actually happened. There must be something in the room here, and the fear just escalates. So just knowing that is helpful. Now, obviously you have a nightmare, or we have a nightmare when we're facing some kind of fear and we're trying to deal with it in life and we're not dealing with it very well, as shown by our dream. So on the one level, it's really good in the longer term to understand the dream, either work on it yourself or get someone to help you so that you can find out, well, what is this fear that I'm not dealing with very well in my life, or this stress or this anxiety? Because if I know that, then I can apply my conscious knowledge and do the dream alchemy exercises that I do to change that. So that's kind of like the longer term plan. And by longer term, I mean, the next few days. But there you are in the middle of the night, frightened to go back to sleep. And as you say, Erica, you lay down, you close your eyes, and all you've got is the nightmare. So when you do that, take a deep breath, reimagine the dream, but when it gets the scary bit, change it. Now, there's one thing you mustn't do, and I won't go into details now, but don't kill the scary monster, because it actually creates a hole in your psyche, whole other question story.
Oh my goodness.
Transform it. Yeah. So take a simple example, if you're being chased by that, was it a tiger I said earlier? If you're being chased by a tiger, close your eyes, imagine yourself back in the jungle or wherever it was, or the city, or your bedroom, and see the tiger. And just as you look at it, transform it into something, whatever you like, it doesn't matter, something loving, something positive, something beautiful. You will go back to sleep. Your unconscious mind will go, oh, okay. So that thing, it's actually something, if I face it and look at it positive, I can feel okay then, and it starts to work on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
It's very powerful.
Yeah. So I guess my next question would be, sometimes we see really random people in our dreams, or people from our past who we haven't even talked to or weren't even friends with or had zero relationship with. Why do they come into our dreams? And are dreams sometimes like signaling a warning, or is there something that's happening that we should be mindful of?
That's a great question. I'm going to deal with a little bit of it first and then answer the bigger question. A little bit of it, very rarely, extremely rarely, extremely rarely, we sometimes dream of things that are going to happen. It's happened to me for a number of years. I ended up writing a book about it called The Shape of Things to Come, which was published by Random House, where I went out and interviewed other people that had experienced it. So all of that is in there. But it is extremely rare, but we have to acknowledge that it happens. I would say, how rare is it? I'd say 99.9% of your dreams are not in that category. So when you look at a dream, the most courageous and fulfilling thing to do from a personal development point of view is to regard everyone in the dream as representing something about yourself. So the person doesn't come into your dream per se. Your dreaming mind is going, I'm processing the last 1 to 2 days, but I want a symbol for aggression. Oh, I know somebody who was aggressive to me once. Bring in this character into my play. There they are. Or it might say, I'm dealing with a sense of loss and grief. What's a good symbol for that? The dreaming mind might come up with a lost puppy. It might come up with crying. It could come up with anything, but it could come up with someone that's passed that you really miss as well. Mm-hmm. So look at the people in your dream as representing something in the context of the dream. One of the many methods that I use is I say, if someone's in your dream, say to yourself, what 3 words would I use to describe this person's personality? So you might say, oh, this person was, I don't know, anything, trusting, delightful, adventurous. So then you go, okay, let's look at the rest of your dream. I wonder why it brought in the symbol of someone that's trusting, adventurous, and I forgot what the other thing was already. So you might discover when you look at the whole of your dream that you're actually dealing with issues of trust, and you brought in this person to represent that. So it is quite complicated, and yet the tools you apply are really quite simple. But that's generally, people are there as symbols, just as everything else in your dream is there as a symbol. But we don't believe that because we're too excited by, oh, so-and-so was in my dream last night. I wonder if we were sharing the same dream, or I wonder if they were giving me a warning, or I wonder if they were there for a message, or I wonder if they've come back from the other side, or all these things, because we believe that dream feels so real, their presence feels so real. But it sounds boring that they're really part of our own symbolizing parts of ourselves, but it's not so boring once you interpret the dream, and it makes a huge difference to your perspectives in life and to how you experience your life going forward.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Now, what about sleep talking and sleepwalking? Does that have anything to do with dreams, or it's scary? I sleep talk.
Yeah.
Does he tell you what you say?
When I was little, I had an invisible friend named Elizabeth, and I would say, Elizabeth, do you want to play jump rope? And my sister always told me I said that. But I don't know what I say now.
I love that what we say is so really just funny and comical and amazing. There's a lot of controversy about understanding sleepwalking and sleep talking, and some researchers say that it doesn't occur in our dreaming phases, and other people say, well, if you talk to someone, if you do wake them up, which you're not supposed to do, they'll say, yeah, I was dreaming. So a lot of controversy about it. When you go to sleep, normally your part of your brain, the reticular activating system, shuts off and actually stops your body from moving for obviously safe reasons, like keeping you in bed instead of getting up and acting out your dreams. So that, it doesn't affect your eyes. You still have the rapid eye movements. Your eyes will go back and forward rapidly when you're dreaming. And it usually doesn't affect your vocal muscles, but sometimes you're dreaming a few grunts and sometimes a few words. So I suspect that sleep talking is sometimes a bit of an override of that shutdown mechanism. And sleepwalking possibly similar as well. And some people just don't shut down their bodies easily. But yeah, lots and lots of controversy about it.
Cool. I'll let you ask a question.
If you got more about dreams, you can ask it, because
Yeah.
I was going to kind of switch it over.
Just one more,
Yeah.
Jane, is what's being a dream analyst and doing this for 22 years or so, what's the craziest dream you've heard that is something that you'll never forget because it was just so absurd? Or maybe a dream that stumped you or something.
Gosh, that's such an amazing question. I've been doing it for 28 years. I've been doing it for 22 years online. It's so hard to answer, Erica, because, you know, I never, whenever anybody tells me a dream, I never go, oh, I've heard this one before, because even if it's a recurring general kind of dream, like I'm being chased, it will always be different. So every dream is so different. I'm always amazed and blown away. Oh, gosh, there are so many. Probably the ones where, and it's quite common, but they're really staggering. Probably the ones where people see themselves die and they step out of their bodies and they go on and do other things. And I guess that doesn't sound so visually amazing, but the emotion and the passion and the shock and the curiosity and the sense of awe that a dreamer has when they tell a dream like that and pumps up that kind of feeling. And that kind of dream is often, but not always, about making such a major change in your life that it's like, oh, that's the end of the old me and I'm coming out in a whole new way here. So I would love to give you some amazing dream story, but they're all amazing. They are all amazing.
Yeah, and so you mentioned you've been doing it for 28 years. I'm interested in kind of the career path that, you know, led you to where you are today. I saw you're an author of maybe 28 books as well. That looks like
8 books. 8 books and a handful of ebooks.
Right. So did you start out writing books and then kind of establish yourself as the expert before you took on clients and consulting?
Love that question. I only realized when I look back on my life that I started writing a lot as a child, and, you know, it's a long story, and actually knocked back publishing contracts that just came to me before I even started in Dream Analysis for all sorts of reasons, like, oh, why to write a book? Wasn't pursuing it at all. So it's only in recent years that I realized that I'm equal parts Dream Analyst and author, and I've actually just written a new book which came out last week.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
What's the name of that one?
It's called Bird of Paradise, and the subtitle is Taming the Unconscious to Bring Your Dreams to Fruition. But a lot of that, that book does talk about how I work with dreams and helps people to understand their dreams and synchronicity and mysteries. But it's also a bit of a whimsical memoir of my life. So it's me looking back at, how exactly that question you asked. How did I get here? What did I do? What was it I did? Were there signs all along that I missed? You know, with the doors open for me? Because yes, for me it was like doors open. So I've just sort of fresh out of writing and reading and getting that book out there. But to answer your question, when I did the research, I've often been on radio, so I do a lot of media stuff, radio and television. And when I had my first job out of university, I first of all was teaching for which background did I do it? Out of university, I was working at a museum, and I was very, very lucky to be given a job as head of a travelling exhibition unit in natural history. So I was only 20 or 21. I went through university quite young, and I was given this amazing task. I had a team of people with me to pick any subject I liked about natural history and build an exhibition around it and put it on the road. And that was a long time ago when travelling exhibitions weren't really the thing, and none of the curators actually wanted to give me anything precious, so we actually had to make most of the stuff. But because it was all new, I got radio interested, asking me, can you come on radio and talk about this? So whatever I've done in life is all, and then 80 years has been television. So when I started to really want to make dreams a career path, I tentatively went on radio just to talk about the idea. And they instantly opened the phone lines to talk back. I thought, oh, okay, we're going to talk back. And so I was thrown into talking to people about their dreams and started that way. And then after a few months, I heard myself say on radio, and this was a major radio station. I don't know what the equivalent is where you live, but in Australia it's the ABC, so it's like the government credible intelligence station. It's not your hip hop, it's all talk and all serious.
Right, like PR, I think would be our equivalent, national public radio.
So I'm on radio and I hear myself say, I'm thinking of writing a book. And part of me is going, what? I'm thinking of a book about dreams, but I want to do a lot of research. So if you're interested in helping me with this research, am I really going to give out my home phone number? Here's my home phone number, pre-internet days, pre-email. I can't believe I'm giving out my email address. Like, this is me saying this thing in a separate part. Why am I doing this? I go home, there's a couple of hundred people on my answer machine wanting to help.
Wow.
And then a couple of days later, there's a phone call from a journalist saying that my literary agent would probably be really interested in the project you're about to do and would probably love to represent you. Would you like to contact him? So I contacted him thinking this is just like a friend of a friend, someone who's starting out as a literary agent. So yeah, I'm in for that. So I contacted him. He turns out to be, at the time, probably Australia's most foremost literary agent. And he was just seeing, of course, here's someone that's good on media. Here's someone with an interesting story. I can pitch this to the publishers, which he did. So I had a publishing contract within 3 weeks for a book on the research which I hadn't started. And that's what I did about doors opening. So I signed it. I did jump in on that one. I did the research. So in a strange kind of way, I was beginning to help people with their dreams on radio because that became a regular weekly slot. And then people were saying, well, can I come and talk to you about my dreams? I was beginning the work, and then simultaneously the book came out. It happened, and it just sort of went from there. So it was an odd path, but it was an amazing opportunity.
Right, and you established yourself really early online. Was that you that saw an opportunity, or did you have somebody tell you like, hey Jane, you should really get a website and build it? Somebody built it for you, I guess. How did you establish yourself on the online presence?
I famously, on my first visit on the internet, was, I will never be interested in this. I won't mention the words that I said. I can see this going down all the wrong path. This is not going to be good for the world. I will not go there. Just before my third book came out, which is the one I mentioned a lot earlier, the one on precognitive dreaming. So that was 1998 that came out. And about 6 weeks before it came out, I had a combination of a dream and listening to people talking about these new website things. And some part of me thought, I just feel like I'd like there to be, for people reading this book, I'd like there to be somewhere to come where they can continue to discuss the themes in here. And maybe that's a website. I didn't even have an email address. So I spoke to my publisher, to Random House Australia, and said, if I had a website, would we be able to put it on the back cover of the book? Because otherwise, how are people going to know about it? That's all I understood. They said, yes, but you'll need to get the website address with it to us. I can't remember, it wasn't like 2 weeks. Yeah, I can't do that. So I put down the phone. I thought, right, how do I do this? So I called a couple of people that I knew and said, what do I do? So they got me an email address, and somebody got me to somebody who said, I can do a 5-page website for you. And we did that 5-page website. Random House published the website address on the back of my book, which I changed after a year. I changed the domain name. I had a 5-page website, and innocently and naively back then thought, right, that's my website. It's done. It's finished. There it is. Look, it's got 5 pages. I've got a little forum on it. So yeah, I forced myself into it, and it just kept on growing. After about a year, it broke. Because so many people were trying to access it and talk on the forum, and I had no IT knowledge whatsoever. And that was a really interesting point, which I don't talk about in my book, because there's lots of things I don't talk about in my book. But I did have a dream around that time that helped me to understand a little bit more about the fact that, for example, that I needed to reach out and get people to help me and employ other people to get me on this. But I didn't have can you imagine the enormous sums of money people were charging in those days for websites?
Oh, yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, they were all custom.
Yeah. So I was actually onto the help desk for the hosting provider of my little website that had broken. And he said to me, a friend of mine has just started a website business, and probably for the cost of a couple of bottles of wine, he would love to build a website for you because you're a bit of a media person. And that's how it started. And then I learned the techniques myself, and for many years did a lot of the website building and development myself, even learned HTML, and then got to a point where now, thankfully, I've got my beautiful teams. I still do bits of it myself because I actually enjoy the creativity of it. But I've also got people that can do all the hard stuff for me. So that was my journey. If I had known at the beginning all the work and effort it was going to take, I don't know if I would have started. But I'm really glad I did.
Do you have clients around the world or just mainly in Australia?
All around the world. And more of my clients are not in Australia. So I'd say about 40% of my clients are Australia. 45% the US, of the balance, most in the UK and some of the European countries. But having said that, of course, I do also have people in Asia, South America, but they're the prime ones. So yes, the whole thing seems to, has always appealed more in the US than here. I don't know why. Although this is where I do most of my media. And I still have like 40% of my clients in Australia. It's just the US is where the real fire is, Erica.
So great.
Yeah, and when did the podcast kick off? How long has that been going on?
So we've just celebrated 11 years. And again, see, a lot of my life, as you can probably pick up, has been not even early adopter. It's been pushed off into this brand new thing, sometimes slightly against my will. And then many years down the track thinking, why do I always do things ahead of time? It would be quite nice sometimes to start something when it is of the moment and everyone's really interested, rather than start something when only a small number of people are interested in podcasts and website. The podcast started when another friend of mine said, Jane, you should really have a podcast. And I said, no, I've got enough to do. I do not want to be doing a podcast. No, you should. No. This went back and forth for a few days. And then she sent me a link to a website of a podcasting company that she thought would be good for this podcast that she really wanted me to do. So I dutifully looked, and one person stood out. He just looked really kind. So I clicked on his picture, and I discovered that he had built a website for a friend of mine that I didn't know who'd built a website. And he said a few things about himself. He supported Kiva. Just everything. And I thought, well, I'll just ask a question. Don't just ask a question. Within a short while, we were podcasting, and I was very lucky because my husband, Michael, who knew absolutely nothing about audio, picked up the reins and decided he would do that side of things. And so we began by doing one show a week to build up the numbers. And then after a while, that was totally and absolutely exhausting, as I'm sure you can imagine. And we now do a show every month. So today we put out episode 230 after 11 years. And the format for most of them is that we have a guest from anywhere in the world, and they come on the show with a dream that I have not heard before. So the moment we start recording, they say, okay, this is a dream that I had. And the listener experiences to hear me hearing it for the first time as we then explore the dream, work out what it means, how it relates to the person's life. And you then hear the person saying, well, this is how it relates. And then we go in from there. Occasionally I pepper that by doing ones without guests, just to usually reading out blogs and things, but just like where I want to share information and tools and get those out there. So yeah, 11 years, and we'll keep on going because people love it. I enjoy doing them.
Yeah. And what's your podcast name for those that don't know?
It's called The Dream Show with Jane Teresa Anderson. If you just Google if you just go to Apple or Spotify or Stitcher and you put The Dream Show, it goes, oh. But if you put The Dream Show with Jane Teresa Anderson, it goes, oh yeah, I know what you want. So
great. Well, if you're ever looking for somebody to be on it to analyze your dreams, I would happily be on your show.
I'll keep you to that, Erica.
I had a very interesting one last night that I cannot get out of my head. So
I'll contact you and we'll organise that. But you know, as with everyone, the thing is, do not tell me the dream until we start recording.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Jane, I just want to commend you and acknowledge you for all the work that you're doing, and you're a true inspiration because you let your passion and your energy really shine. And so I think no matter what you're doing, people can take a lesson from that to really pursue what you're interested in, follow your dreams, and really you can make a career out of it. So I just want to thank you for being on the show and sharing your joy and passion with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for asking the lovely questions which enabled me to express all of that.
Where's the best place for people to connect with you online?
So I've got two main websites. One is janeteresa.com, that's Teresa without an H. And then the learning platform, the Dream Academy, is dream-academy-online.com. And the podcast, of course, you can listen to all 230 episodes at janeteresa.com, or always get the last, the recent ones on Spotify, Apple, or Stitcher, etc.
All right. Thank you so much, Jane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.